Okay, here we go. Hi, everybody, welcome. I'm Katie O'Leary. I am with the Norwalk Redevelopment Agency. Thank you to all of you who joined the first time and came back. Appreciate it. To those of you who are new, thank you for joining us, and I hope we get to see all of you in future workshops as well. Just a couple of little things for those of you who, Janet, bathroom is down that way, first door on the right. Coffee and tea, as you saw, are back there. Please help yourself at any point. Yvonne will, there'll be a short break, but help yourself whenever you are ready. I really just said, I wanted to just actually let everybody know the food today is courtesy of the Business Development Center, and this is where the Business Development Center resides, right here in this space. So they've provided the space as well as the food today. So thank you to them. I really just had two announcements. One, I wanted to mention that we've changed the date of the March workshop from March 17th to March 24th. So it'll be 1 week later. There's a schedule at the back. If you want to, of all of the dates, including that new date, if you want to take that with you. And the other announcement, I wanted to just let you all know that the for those of you who work with or know Norwalk business owners, the city of Norwalk is hosting a quarterly business roundtable breakfast on February 22nd, next Wednesday at 9 a.m. in the community room at the City Hall, located at 125 East Ave. This event will give members of the business community the opportunity to learn about several local and state programs designed to support their businesses, along with proposed legislation from the current 2023 legislative session. Members of the business community will have the opportunity to participate with the folks that are there, ask questions. A legislative update from Senate Majority Leader Bob Duff and State Representative Dominique Johnson is on the agenda. I think they're going to give about a 10 or 15-minute talk. They're serving breakfast. They expect the meeting to last about an hour and a half. And moving forward, the city is planning to hold these meetings on a regular basis. I will include the flyer and my post-event email to you all, but that would be for any of you who work with or know small business owners in Norwalk if they're interested in attending. So thank you again very much. I appreciate that you're all here and hope you enjoy it, learn a lot, and keep coming back.
Thank you, Katie. For those of you that don't know, Katie is the person that makes everything happen behind the scenes and makes sure that we are all aligned for our workshops. So thank you for doing that so efficiently and so kindly.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. So I hope we had a really good time today. In the last presentation, I got to meet some of you. And what we're going to do is go over the agenda, what we are going to get started with, and then we'll get to know each other a little bit more. So I'm going to share the presentation and make sure I'm sharing it right away. And all this presenter view so you can see the whole thing. Alrighty. So the workshop of today is a workshop that I consider very, very important, which is self-care for helpers. In the helping profession, we normally tend to leave ourselves behind. Helpers are by nature people that care a lot about others, and we forget the importance of taking care of ourselves so that we can serve people better and be better ourselves too. So we'll go through a few thoughts and techniques to help us get there and kind of improve our self-care. So first, we're gonna talk about what we can expect with the workshop today, and obviously review the principles that we observe when we are having these conversations. Look for your input. Then we'll do a little session of intros. I have different questions than last time. Then we'll talk a little bit about the brief history of self-care, you know, how it came about, this concept of self-care, and some myths about self-care that people don't sometimes have so ingrained that keeps them from being able to care for themselves. Then we are going to have a conversation about the difference between burnout, compassion fatigue, and vicarious trauma, and what are the different ways to look at it. Then we'll take a break for 10 minutes. And then we are going to do a couple of activities that are for alignment and making sure that we are aligned with ourselves to take care of ourselves and balance the other parts of our lives. And then we will go over a few integration practices that benefit the body and the mind, a few tips. At that point, I'm also going to be looking for your input because I'm sure you have a lot of good tips and things that you may do or you know other people do. So we build this list together. Any questions, anybody so far? Can people at home hear us well?
Yep, I can hear you good.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. All right. So this is the list of workshops we have. We did January 20 already. Today we are on the second one. And so when I share these slides with you, you have the complete set of workshops that are following, including the new day for the March event. So what can you expect? Let me see if I can get this thing out of the way. It doesn't show. So the first thing, let's go back and go. What can we expect here? So one of the things that we want to happen in these presentations is that we have a lot of conversations. I think we kind of like get to learn from one another. And it's important for you to share how you think and also for us to hear what you have to say, because being already in the helping professions does give you a lot of experience on the kind of topics we are talking about. Also some learning, perhaps, hopefully you will get to learn something new that you weren't aware of before. An opportunity for introspection, right? Taking a look at one another and knowing that you are in a community, you are not alone. There are other people that feel like you and other people that want to kind of find that path to improving yourself and the organization where you are in. And last but not least, my main philosophy, you will not be told what to do. Everything that we talk about are suggestions and whatever fits your needs and the way you think about things is what we are looking for versus following a recipe, which normally doesn't work for everybody. Principles to serve. First thing, we all have the capacity to change things around us. So we do have agency in our own lives. And even sometimes when we feel that we are not in charge of some things that are happening to us, we always have the opportunity to make choices. So that's one principle that I love that my participants observe while we're having these conversations, because sometimes it's kind of easy at the moment to say, I give up, there is nothing I can do about it. It's a little bit harder to have agency, but in the long term, it's the best solution and the easiest way to live. We all learn from each other. Participation is critical. Last time we had a really good experience with participation, so I'm sure that it's going to happen again. This should be a safe space to share. Let's practice yes and. So when somebody has input, instead of saying but I think in a different way, we acknowledge the other person by saying yes, I acknowledge your point of view, and this is another way to look at things. And usually at this point, I ask, what kind of principles would you like to observe as a group? Anything in particular that is important to you as you are attending these kind of workshops and you are sharing your thoughts with other people?
I think I would agree with we learn, maybe you're looking for more or additional, but we all learn from each other. I think that's a very valuable principle.
Awesome. Thank you, Katie.
I guess I need to practice more the yes and.
Thank you, Sayed. Anybody at home would like to contribute with some principle they would like us to observe today as we get together? All right. Okay, so we'll move into the next slide. Housekeeping items you went through already, Katie, so we are good. And we are going to talk a little bit about self-care and set the tone for the conversation. One of the things I always tell people that I work with is the importance of knowing yourself. we have very little influence on how we change things around us. We do work every day, and sometimes it may be frustrating because there are things that we do to try to help others, to try to get others to act differently or think in a different way. But in reality, in life, the only thing for sure that you can change is yourself. So knowing and getting to know yourself is such an important principle to continue working on. Because as you get to know yourself, you will know what is necessary for you. And in the case of self-care, it's one of like the most important things, right? If you know yourself, then you know what you can do to be better. So it's a constant process of investigation and growth as you go through life. So we are going to do a few intros. So here are the questions I have. First, your first name, so we all become familiar with who is who. And second, if people were here last time, I'd like them to tell me what kind of changes they made after the presentation. And if you weren't here last time, I'd like to know, what do you hope to take with you today with this workshop? What are your expectations? So how about we start here in the room? Lisa?
Lisa,
Yes.
with the Norwalk Housing Authority. As far as changes, I didn't really make very many changes from the last time, but I did listen intently during the presentation. And today, being self-care, it's really easy to get wrapped up in other people's lives and carry their issues with you and internalize them. And essentially learning how to do better at letting go.
Yes. Thank you. And thank you for, talking about the fact that you didn't make many changes. Is very natural not to make changes right away. It's a process, right? And you can't push yourself to really be like, oh, I'm going to be a totally different person today. It's a process, and it takes years and years of investigation, learning in your own way before you start making changes that you feel may be beneficial to you. So thank you for sharing that. I think it's so important when we set how things are going to work out for ourselves. So anybody say it?
Yes. So last time we talked a lot about balance, work-life balance. And what I learned is that there's not really a balance, or one is separate from the other. It's more like entertain how they work together. Some of the changes that I did, well, first of all, getting to know that, what made me realize that one or the other doesn't fight or is not like contradictory. So they need to work together. So that was good. One of the things that I did is I set up my auto messages from my email on one of my businesses. So I don't answer any Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So like that, I'm not constantly checking my emails. Some of the people used to send me text messages. So I told them, please send me an email instead. So like that, I don't have to be Sunday night and I'm like waiting. One thing that I really want to learn how to do is to postpone. If I receive an email, so Outlook doesn't show it was sent until the next day. I think there's a way that we can do that, because some of my coworkers tend to send me emails on a Sunday at 8 o'clock at night, and it is 9 o'clock and I'm getting all these emails and I'm like, wait a minute. So, I'm working there, trying to make myself more available to my family and, to myself. So like that, I'm not working when I go to the gym. Now I leave my cell phone away so I can focus on that. So it's really like, I think when I'm assigning times to each activity of my life, then I don't feel pressure. Oh, I need to do this. I'm here, but my mind is like, oh, I need to do that. Or my mind is, so I think that's something, organization. I think that's what some of the changes that I did. I'm not there yet, but at least I did a progress, and it took courage to really tell somebody, please don't send me a text message, send me an email. Because they didn't really take it nicely when I said it, but then I said, it's like, oh, but because when I read your email, I can answer right away. And if I read your message, and I'm doing something else, I may forget.
Right.
But if you send me an email, I know it is gonna be on my to-dos.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
You did it last year. Very good.
Sharon,
Sharon had.
hi. I agree with everything you say.
Well, it's, I learned it from my class.
Yeah, and I think that's the only thing that I started doing it. Is to completely, like, you just saw what just happened, the black phone went off, and I had to look at it. I'm learning to not respond, to just let it ring. And when the message pops up, unless it's like one of my child calling to say, or my husband saying that we're falling apart. And even then too, ignore it. So that is one of my key work on, because I have a lot of other things that I do. And so, like I think I should release it today. Sometimes I want to be hidden, like I just don't want to be seen a little bit, So that's something to work on. And as far as today goes, self-care, I'm not really good at. I'm not bad, but I'm not really good at it because I'm a helper. So I worry about everybody else's care instead of my own, and I need to start focusing a little bit more on me, taking care of me.
Thank you for sharing that. And it also takes a lot of courage to hear that phone ring and feel like that social pressure that your brain puts on yourself and say, no, I'm gonna look at it later. And you'd be amazed the kind of things that get resolved on their own without you even like having to say anything. Hi.
Hi there, I'm Janet, and it's my first, I didn't attend the last session. So, for the first time, but I agree with Sharon and Sayer with regards to doing better at managing things that come, at you. So my background was in a very high-paced, intense-paced marketing and advertising background at advertising agency. And everything was urgent. So you had to respond to the emails right away. You had to it was just like you felt like you had to deal with everything right then and there. So I'm really learning now, as she said, it's okay. You don't have to answer the phone right away. And it's okay. You don't have to respond to that email. You could actually respond to the email tomorrow. When you have a little bit more, leverage, and you're not as pushed for time or whatever. So I am doing a better job at doing that for myself. I mean, the one thing that I need to do better and improve on is I am I run a nonprofit, and I am a helper, and I do take care of everybody else and leave myself for the last. I make sure that everything in the house is done. I make sure that my son gets what he wants. I make sure that when it comes to the nice team or that I am giving them instead of taking care of myself. So, I mean, I signed up for the gym. I mean, I've only gone like twice, it's like, it's like, so, I kind of need to get a better handle on, having a little bit more self-care for myself.
Thank you for sharing, Janet. And it's a common thread amongst people that help others. It's a kind of personality that I used to tell a friend I was, born with a cheap damage because I can't do things for myself. It's just something that you're born with. And it's really, really hard to counteract that natural instinct of wanting to put others before
Yes.
ourselves.
I'm totally guilty of that.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it feels good
Yeah.
to be so giving, right? But then at the same time,
Mhm.
when we do not have those boundaries, it can be, can cause burnout and so on. All right, thank you so much, Valerie. Do you want to share? Hi, how are you?
Hello, good afternoon. I'm doing well, thank you.
So I don't recall, Valerie, if you were here last time.
No, this is my first time.
Well, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
So what kind of expectations do you have for today and the self-care workshop?
So I'm hoping maybe to take away some new tools in regards to carving out time for self-care.
Mm-hmm. Awesome, fantastic. Lisa, how about you?
Hi, everyone. This is my first time. And pretty much what everyone has stated, what Valerie just stated, just want to learn some extra tools to really like concentrate on me and kind of not feel guilty when I'm doing it. But just really want to just take time to be able just to relax and, have the focus on me.
Fantastic, thank you, Lisa.
Mm-hmm.
So our first kind of activity that we're gonna talk about is kind of a little bit of history around self-care and how this concept of self-care came about. So basically, self-care was originally a medical term or concept that was used for patients themselves, patients that had mental health situations going, so they could acquire some healthy habits. So that's how the concept started. And prior to the 1960s and early in the 70s, these patients were usually, like I said before, mentally ill and elderly people who require kind of to acquire the habits that help them live better lives and be more autonomous. Then later, academics began taking a look for ways in which workers that were more high risk for burnout could start using these practices as well. For example, trauma therapies, social workers, EMTs, nurses, and people who were kind of like on the helping professions like you are. To work with the stress that came about the job, the extra stress that we are going to be talking today about, which is normally what we call compassion fatigue. And then with the rise of the women's movements and the civil rights movements, self-care became something that people started talking about a little bit more. And now it's kind of like talk about in the Western medicine, since the Western medicine tend to be fail at making sure that people, also other than taking medications, took care of themselves in a healthy way, then other kind of alternative medicines came up. And that's how we always think, about self-care, about, meditation and yoga and those kind of things, because it has been the other alternatives of medical situations that have brought this about. During 9/11, the elections of 2017, and during the pandemic, more people started kind of thinking about self-care, about something that, really they needed to pay attention to. And I have to say, in my experience working with younger generations, they tend to be a bit better about setting those boundaries and saying, I really need kind of a mental health day. This is something we are not used to, older generations, but, finding the balance between caring for yourself and caring for others could be a really better way to do the work that we are doing today. So let's talk about a few minutes of self-care, things that people think about and keeps them from working on self-care for themselves. Anything that you can think of that comes to mind that you say, this is something that keeps me from doing self-care other than time.
Work.
Kind of work is more important, right? Like nobody can do this thing that I'm doing. Everything is urgent. I always tell people to remember they are not performing heart surgery. I think those are the only people that really need to like respond right away, doctors, and they have their way of going about that. But we tend to think about the things that we do as being very urgent and more urgent than taking time for ourselves. Like Janet was saying, like going to the gym, right? What else? What else can keep us from working on doing self-care? And please, people at home, that you can just unmute yourself and speak up if you have any ideas.
What about time?
There is no time.
There's no time.
Yeah.
We don't carve out time, really. It's busy. I'm too busy.
I'm too busy.
Too busy.
I can't do it.
I think we need to change our perception of the value of it for us. Because we put so much more value on the other stuff, you know, it's like, well, it's more important for me to stay and send the emails out, to schedule these Zoom meetings, to do this, instead of just taking the hour and going, you know, to the gym. Yeah, and I think it's because I put a much higher value. I mean, they're equally important, but I just have to figure out how to, you know, put a value system on it. So it's just as, it takes on the same sort of urgency as everything else.
Right. Yeah, that's very important, having a value system of the things that we value. And when we do our alignment activities, we'll talk a little bit about that. Because there are things that we know in our heart and our head, but they're like very like ideas, right? Once we see them in paper, it's kind of like, oh, I really can like do something about this and work at it, think about it in a different way. A few other myths. Anybody at home wants to contribute? Let me ask you a question. Do you hear the audience fine? Yes, awesome.
Yes.
We have a cool microphone here and I want to make sure it's working. Awesome. Thank you. Moving to a few of the myths. Valerie, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, for a lot of people who are parents, one of the self-care myths is that you always have to put your child's needs before your own.
Yes, very, very true. Thank you for sharing that. Lisa, anything?
I'm sorry.
What about afraid of change?
Okay, tell me what about that?
So for example, somebody that has been living certain life or always been under pressure, or somebody that you know, whose parent died during the pandemic, or friend or family, and they've been carrying this burden, maybe sentimental, maybe a job, maybe because you lost something or somebody cheated on you, or you know, that negative feeling, that they got so used to living with it under that stress, that when you say you need to do some self-care, they're like, no, I can't change. Or I refuse to change, even though they know maybe they go to the gym and they feel better and they feel great, but they don't want to go back because they're afraid of, well, if I held on to this for so long, who am I gonna be once this is being removed? It's like kind of like it became part of their identity. Yeah, right. I don't know. Maybe that's something that I was thinking. Could that be?
Yeah,
I didn't say it's part of my personality.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Like, well, you're mad all the time. Yeah, I'm a mad person. I'm an angry person. Well, but what if you remove that rock on your shoe that is, then are you still gonna be mad? And he's like, well, no. That's why don't remove it.
To be mad.
I like to be mad.
Thank you for sharing that, Sayed, because one of the things that we talked about at the previous workshop was the fact that whatever we feed our minds is what our minds reproduce. And we know by now, by neuroscience and all of that, you know, our neurons grow over time. And whatever we practice is what's gonna grow the most. That's why athletes, right, if they practice their sport, they get really good at it. And people become professionals or mathematicians. The more math they do, the better they are at it. So the more we think about an identity we have, for example, let's say a cranky identity, the more cranky we are going to become. And if we feel, and if we identify with being that kind of person, the only thing we're gonna do is to reinforce that. And those cells in your brain, I assure you, are gonna grow, and they're gonna create this whole personality that is very difficult to get out of. So I think one of the things that are very important is the habits that we create. And I like to think about negative thinking as a bad habit. It's just a bad habit that we can change when we have a negative thought. And it doesn't mean to be positive about everything. I don't believe in being absolutely positive. There are very bad things in the world that we need to be paying attention to, and we can't live like, oh, no, everything is fine and nice. But if we turn things around, maybe our brains can start thinking differently. And, that takes a lot of practice. Personally, it's taken me many years to switch some of my regular mental patterns, and they come back on their own. They're really, really hard to get rid of. So, and I'm not here to talk about me, but one of the things I did about 2 years ago was to start turning any negative phrase I saw into a positive statement. And that really worked to some point, but I still get some negativity coming to my head. Just to, to be absolutely honest with all of you, it takes a lot of practice, and it's I guess the journey is what we need to enjoy. So here are a few of other myths. For example, that self-care is selfish. When I'm taking care of myself, I'm being selfish, and a lot of people feel like that, right? If I'm going to the gym, or if I'm taking time off from work without answering the phone, I'm not caring for others, therefore I may be selfish. And a lot of these messages are the messages that we receive growing up. Kind of like, oh, you only think about yourself, or you think, you don't care about your family, and things that are kind of passed on from generation to generation. I keep telling my brothers every time they say things like that, you're talking like an old person, but you don't have to think that way. The other one is that self-care is just for women. Like, I think that a lot of the practices that we talk about on self-care are things that people relate immediately with women. And there may be a reason for that, because as we saw before, there was started with the women movement, right? And probably because women were taking care of a lot of things, including their families and their kids. Traditionally, I'm not saying that men don't do it, but traditionally, women tend to take care of their families. That's how the roles kind of got divided as humanity evolved. And so, maybe it could be, but men need self-care as much as women. I'm so sad. I remember one of our participants from last time, he was saying how he takes his clients' problems with himself, and he thinks about it. I'm so sad he's not here. I hope we get to send a video to the people that attended last time, because this could be a very useful kind of presentation for him. Okay, this is a good one. Self-care is doing anything that makes you feel better. So, a lot of people think about drinking alcohol or using substances as self-care. And so it is an easy way to get home and relax, but then at the same time, it's not good for your body, right? And when we are using substances, what we are doing is avoiding the feelings that we have to deal with. And eventually it doesn't get any better. It takes a big toll on our bodies. So I'm not against using substances. I drink my glass of wine, of course. But what I'm saying is shouldn't be considered necessarily a way of self-care. The next one is, let me see if I can make this out of the way so you can see better. We have to earn the right to practice self-care. That's absolutely, a no-no. And self-care requires resources that you don't have. So there are many times in which we think about having to go to a yoga class and pay for a membership, or having to take a meditation class, but it's not necessarily what it is. Let me try. I think I have a noise here. I'll try to speak a little bit lower. So no, it's not necessary. And one of the things that keeps us from doing self-care is that we tend to think it's this very complicated thing that we need to do and that we need all this time in the day. And sometimes the things that we can do for ourselves can be very short to the point and incorporate into our daily routines.
Can I share the resource one with you? I had a client that had a little, self-esteem issues.
Mhm.
And got encouraged to get her hair done. And she went to the hairdresser, and the hairdresser like nailed into her like, how come you don't ever have a job? And I hear you sitting here complaining about you don't have this and you don't have that. Why are you here getting your hair done? Or, and that really damaged her. Like she sunk back in and she's like, well, I said, stop. How did you feel when your hair got done? That's the most important thing. Don't worry about it. If you have to put $5 aside until it builds up so you can go get your hair done, it's okay. But it just goes to show you those negative comments. I mean, she was really hurt by that. She's like, so now you're not gonna get your hair done and she's not gonna look, presentable when she needs to do what she needs to do because like, well, they're worried about me having money to do my hair.
Right. It's very interesting what society tells us, right? What we have the right to. So thank you for sharing that. Another one is that the effects of self-care are temporary. Another belief, not necessarily they build onto another. So yeah, you go and get a massage and then the next day your back hurts again.
That's a chiropractor.
But there is different components of self-care, and the way I like to think about it is the body, the mind, and the spirit. And the more you do self-care and things that are good for yourself, they will build onto your previous history of doing self-care and build that kind of resilience and that knowledge that you're taking care for yourself. So some things may be temporary for the moment, but as you build them on, the more they will accumulate throughout your life. Self-care takes too much time, and self-care is optional. I think that's a huge myth, especially for people that are helping others. To think that it is optional to take care of yourself is a great mistake, because if we don't take care of ourselves, then we won't be able to help anybody else. So I'm not gonna use put the mask on yourself because everybody uses that analogy. So I'll skip that one. Everybody knows to put their mask on themselves. And that self-care is the same for everyone. People care for themselves in different ways, and that's important also to acknowledge. All right.
Yvonne, there's something in the chat. I don't know if somebody was trying to add something.
Oh, thank you. Let's see. Oh, Valerie, yes, this is another one. You should put always your child's needs first. Thank you for sharing that. Would you like to expand on that?
I think she put that when we were talking.
Earlier.
She said it.
Okay, awesome. So we are going to talk a little bit about the differences between burnout, compassion fatigue, and vicarious trauma. Okay, so that we have like a baseline and we know we are talking about the same. Burnout can be something that can happen to anyone. Anyone in any job can suffer burnout. Usually it's the circumstances of the work, whether it's a job that is very demanding, whether it is too many hours of work, whether it's lack of resources, a bad boss, a bad team, all those kind of things can kind of give people a situation in which they feel burnout over time. And burnout may lead to a stressful work environment. This is the situations that lead to burnout: excessive hours, lack of acknowledgement at work, bad management, and too much high demanding job. Burnout can be worked out by talking to somebody, by making decisions of changing what you're doing. Maybe perhaps talking with someone at your job or at your home, because burnout can also happen at home, right? You're doing too much at home to get the help that you need. And, if you feel that you need more help, going to a therapist may be helpful as well. I tend to recommend seeing therapists that for these kind of things, right? That really help and on changing habits and that they help you to set out goals for yourself and a very kind of objective to how to get that. So it's a cognitive psychologists or social workers tend to be the ones that can work on these habits that will make the changes quickly. But sometimes you can be burned out about ideas that you have about yourself, and that may take to investigate a little bit about your own belief system. And what do you think? I always have to be perfect. I always have to do, be responsive. I always have to do these kind of things that were ingrained probably growing up, ideas that you grew up with, that may take into getting burnout. Now, compassion fatigue, and this is the one that I'm going to extend on more because I think this is for healthy professions, is the most common kind of situation and what we really need to pay attention to. So compassion fatigue affects a large range of caregivers. It usually happens, or anybody that is in the healing professions or helping professions, and it's the response or psychological response to the emotional impact that you get from working and helping others. So you are working with people that need a lot of help themselves. Sometimes the resources are not there. You feel bad about it. You hear their stories, they're very difficult. You feel bad about it. And eventually, over time, it burns you out. Now, this compassion fatigue is very specific to people that are helping. So recently, I was speaking to someone that had moved from the corporate world into the social industry, helping people. And we were talking, I said, be careful with compassion fatigue. I see that you are seeing a lot of people, you are hearing their problems and how things are in their lives. And over time, these stories are going to start taking a toll on you. So keep an eye on that. It's a little bit more than burnout. It's kind of a lot more emotional and so on. So, for example, different situations that may lead to compassion fatigue. First of all, listening to different clients' stories, being threatened when you are providing care. This is not uncommon, right? You are helping someone that is having, for example, mental health issues or addiction issues. They are not themselves, and they may be aggressive when you are providing them services. Providing care for someone that may be depressed, suicidal, people experiencing losses, mourning, or someone that is experiencing illness. All of those stories that do take a lot on you. Working in an unsafe work environment. Sometimes, for example, if people work at shelters, it may be, even though there is safety, they may feel unsafe because of the population they are serving. They are not in the right place at that time, and it may feel that, or happens a lot with people that are case managers that go and visit people at their houses, right? They have to go to neighborhoods in which things may be happening. Sometimes I've heard about caregivers that have to go with the police to visit someone. And that creates a lot of stress on your own and feelings that, are hard to work with. The other piece is when people do witness something that happened, an act of violence. Let's say somebody that is responding to domestic violence, and they witness what is going on at home. They witness the children being mistreated. They witness all those kind of situations can cause a lot of emotional burnout as well, leading to compassion fatigue. The ways in which the compassion fatigue shows, first of all, mood swings. Also withdrawal from social connections. People that are not realizing they have compassion fatigue and are not treating that may want to go home and not see anybody because their work takes on so much pressure, stress, and emotional toll. They may say, I don't want to go out this weekend. You start withdrawing from your friends, your family, and your social connections. Becoming numb to your client's suffering. You hear so much about it that over time you feel like, okay, just tell me what's going on, I'll help you with what I can, and I'm numbing myself so I don't have to feel these feelings, which are absolutely natural for people to feel. Then other one is addiction. Sometimes, it happens, and inability to separate your professional and personal life. So as we were hearing as an example, and some of the people that were in the previous workshop were saying that they work with people and they take that home with them, and they can't separate it. The feelings that they are experiencing at their job are being carried into their personal lives and their family lives. People may experience having trouble being productive because the emotions are taking over. There may be signs of depression, insomnia, digestion issues, physical fatigue, and so on. So for compassion fatigue, normally getting some professional help will be recommended. And for people that are, for example, supervising others that are having a lot of difficulties managing the feelings, it's very important to keep an eye and say, do you need some help? And connect them with the resources that may be available for them. So I would like to hear from you and how you feel you have experienced compassion fatigue throughout your careers and the work you're doing. Things that I may not have said, or some things that you may want to add to the conversation.
I can say something.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's I think compassion fatigue is more like, well, I don't know. I'm thinking if I have ever felt like this, right? But I think, yeah, sometimes I became numb to my clients' suffering. I mean, it's hard to say because I'm a financial advisor, retirement planner. So sometimes it's more like in the money side, right? That you want to help them and they're like, not making enough money to cover their expenses and stuff like that. So you feel bad for them. And sometimes that makes me have insomnia. I cannot sleep because I just keep thinking about the problem, how I can help her or help them, right? And I think I can stop talking about it. So I talk to my wife and she's like, okay, you're gonna talk to me about this person again. I talk about to my brother's families. Oh my God, here you come talking about, what your clients don't do or do, right? So it's, I don't know if that's compassion fatigue. Maybe it's just, sometimes I feel like I cannot disconnect myself from work because I still think about this.
Right.
But, it's hard. I think it's hard to disconnect, right? Like, you care about your clients and then, or maybe that's an excuse that I'm saying, right? It's like, I care about them too much. That's what they're paying me for.
Right.
I should not disconnect from their feelings.
Right.
That's what they're paying,
Right.
but maybe that's not what they're paying. They're paying me to be a strategist, right? So it's like, I don't know, there's a thin line in those things.
It is, and it all comes down to processing the feelings, right? Because not feeling is like becoming numb. Is not it's not a good strategy either. But it's knowing how to process the feelings and working some solution that works for yourself when it comes to thinking about the work and what you do.
I don't think it's, I wouldn't say numb. I think over time, if you hear the same story, if you're working in a population where you've heard the stories and it's the same stories, and even though you're a compassionate person and absolutely understand what's going on, but you're kind of, you learn to separate just listening, reacting, helping, and like you said, you're gonna know that, you know what, I really can't help you with that, or I've tried to help you with that. Or then you say, well, how many times am I gonna try to help you with that? Because you're not listening. So once the person kind of do that, they withdraw from you helping, then you become numb to what they, okay, I have done what I need to do. And you're not responding. So right now we can go through this every week, every day, but you're just like, okay, let me see what I can do. And you kind of do it that way, and and like you said about the professional and personal. Cause I got my husband too, and he gets tired of hearing it, but he doesn't say, he's kind of like, yeah, I heard that story, you know. But it's true, when you're dealing in the human service field, it is very hard because it's almost like you are looking to see if somebody else can help you with a solution. It's not necessary like you're perseverating over the whole thing, but you just want to share, like, you know what, maybe if I share it with you, you know, maybe she'll say something and give me some kind of clue how to help, you know, and that's where I fall under the category of professional and personal, because I do carry it over into like, okay, I have a hard situation and somebody who I trust, you know, would give me that help in that way. And I think in a lot of times we do when we care. You tend to have a hard time separating professional and personal.
Right. And I think sometimes it's okay to carry on that as long as it's not affecting you personally.
Personally, yeah.
Right? So if you know how to manage it, and it sounds to me like you are very good at separating things and have learned a way to not carry this with you or not constantly feel bad for the same person that is not able to find those resources that you are trying to help them with or do it on their own. But then also, you know, you still feel the compassion. It's just that you have been able to kind of like say, okay, well, this is as much as I can do, and this is enough, right? I used to be in crisis services for a long time, and there were so many things that were so sad and would take over your life if you thought about people's stories and the injustices that they have been through and the things that had happened to them. And it was really hard to reconcile that, to kind of feel. And one day I started saying to myself, okay, so the thing that I can do is to tell myself, if I wasn't here today, this person wouldn't have had anybody to hear the story. And if it's only that I can do today, is a little bit better than when the person had before walking in the door. And it seems such a small piece, but in reality, for people, it means so much, right? Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Anybody else would like to share their experience? What about at home? No? Valerie, Lisa, do you want to share anything? No? Do you feel identified with the conversation we are having right now? Yes?
Most definitely, yes.
Awesome. Good. As long as you're feeling we are on the right page here. Okay, guys. So we're going to talk about vicarious trauma just for a little bit, because I know a little bit about trauma, but I'm not a therapist. So, but vicarious trauma is also known as secondary trauma. Some people just like to call it plain trauma. And it's what happens when you are exposed to traumatic stories of other people, right? What happens is in the brain is that when our brain tends to be visual. So when we get to a story about what happened, your brain is going to picture it in a way that thinks it happened. And that's going to happen is that image of what's happening. Let's say I had an accident or I was raped or something like that, and I'm telling you the story. Is that the way our brain is going to process it is going to be this image, and it's going to seem like it's happening to ourselves. We are in that situation at that moment. Not that it's happening to ourselves, but we are in that situation at the moment. And that can create trauma. And over time, other people's traumatic experience can be passed on into our own lives, right? And we may absorb it in such a way that we end up traumatized, and we may have trouble sleeping and having the same reactions that other people may have, like the people that have been through the trauma have. So we will be exploring on some things that can be done. A lot of it has to do with grounding and kind of like being present in the moment instead of your mind, because as you may know, if you were to put the brain in a jar and you were to send the signals, the brain wouldn't be able to distinguish what is real from what is not. It's a wonderful machine, but at the same time, whatever The brain thinks as an organ separately is what it perceives as reality. So I don't know if anybody has any questions about vicarious trauma. I'm not gonna go more into it because I'm not an expert, but if anybody feels like they have been exposed and they are suffering from trauma from hearing the stories, definitely advise you to go to get some sort of therapy so you can work things through. It's absolutely normal to have vicarious trauma if you hear traumatic stories. Psychologists, psychotherapists, and social workers are working on that constantly. Any comments at home? No, we're good? All right. So we're gonna take a little break now. And when we come back, we are going to have a little activity that will help us align and make sure that we start from the alignment part when we start thinking about self-care. So we'll take 10 minutes until 1:42. Okay. Hi, Valerie and Lisa, are you back? Yes, I see.
Yep,
Things
I'm here.
Okay, welcome back. So when you registered, you probably did receive a attachment of those two things. One called the Wheel of Life and the other one the Values Assessment.
Yep.
Do you
I got
awesome. And I'm going to give these to the audience over here. Here's the Wheel of Life. Sorry, say yes. You don't have this up there. Here's the Wheel of Life and the Values Assessment. You rated yours.
Yeah.
You've done this before?
No.
Ah,
Yeah.
but it looks like you got a.
But I did it before coming.
Oh, you can be. Okay, so this is how it works. We're gonna work on the Wheel of Life first. And the way it gets done, and like, let me just say that, like I was saying before, we tend to know what kind of pieces in our lives are not as balanced as we would like them to, right? And theoretically we know that, but unless we put them in a visual, right, it doesn't help us kind of like say, oh, okay, yes, there's something that is not in balance in my life, right? So the Wheel of Life really helps people look at it in a visual way and kind of assess where they feel that their priorities are at this moment and where they want them to. So the exercise is very simple. This Wheel of Life is divided into different areas that are normal in people's lives. It can be used also for relationships. This Wheel of Life can be used for anything you may want to. But the exercise is to put a number, circle a number for each area, telling yourself, where do you feel you are in that area? For example, how do you feel your family relations are? If you were to say from 1 to 10, where do you feel that these 10 being the best, right? And 1 being the least, where do you feel your family relations are kind of like falling right now? So we are going to take a few minutes for you to do the evaluation and then we'll move into the next step. I'll do mine too. I'm sure it has changed since last time I did this.
When you say relationship, are you talking about
All kinds of relationships.
relationship in the family with just everybody in
Right.
immediate or just the overall?
So we have one for family, and then there's another one for relationships that may include your friends,
Oh, okay.
people at work, how you feel that you are ranking
Oh.
right now in your relationships in your life.
Oh,
So usually we use this exercise a lot for coaching people. Sometimes people need some coaching and they don't know where to start. So the first thing we look at is kind of like, where is your balance in your life? And it can give us a good clue or map of where to start with that person. Mhm. Once you're finished circling your numbers, what I want you to do is to do a line that connects all the numbers. Is that right? Okay. So what happens when you connect your numbers, it's gonna give you some sort of a graph that is gonna show you, right, in relationship with one another, where are your weakest points. For example, in this example we have here, right? Everything feels pretty balanced for that person, but when you see there is a dip here in the let's see, what is that one? That's health, right? You will see that that person doesn't feel aligned with their health. This is the one that is weakest, and the circle around it will help you kind of look at where are the dips.
So the goal is to have a circle.
Yeah, I mean, actually there is not a exact goal to it, except for how you feel that, you know, this wheel looks for you. For example, let's say spirituality is not a big deal for me. It's not my thing. And I'm at a 2. You may be okay with it. But if spirituality is a big deal for you and you are at a 2, then it gives you kind of a perspective of where, you know, where you are.
You know what, at the beginning, I put on one of these ones, for example, fun and enjoyment, right?
Mhm.
First, I put like 5. But then I realized, well, just because I don't do it as much as, for example, career or health or relationships, that doesn't mean that I'm satisfied,
Mhm.
right? So it's not like, and then I read again the instructions, the directions, and it says how you are, your current level of satisfaction. So I'm like, I'm actually at a 8, even though I don't do it as often. I'm actually satisfied. So it doesn't mean that each of these areas have to be in the same amount of time or the same amount of, it's just a matter of, I guess, perception for each individual, right?
Correct. Exactly. And how satisfied you are with it.
Makes sense.
Mhm.
You know, because I can say like, oh, I spend way too much time working, so that will be a 10. That doesn't mean that I'm satisfied. That
Right.
doesn't mean because family and fun and enjoyment, I only given like 2 or 3 hours a week, doesn't mean that
But you're still happy with it.
if that is enough for me, then probably I'm at a 10, right? Because I don't want to have any more, right? Maybe, I don't know.
That makes sense.
Awesome. Thank you, Sayed. That was good. You could kind of teach this.
No, it's just like, you know, I just realized it when I was like
Yeah.
filling the numbers
Uh-huh.
and I read again directions and I'm like, wait a minute. It's like, am I really dissatisfied with my fun and enjoyment? And I'm like,
When I
well,
think
no,
about the
actually.
2 relationship, because I don't want all the people. I'm fine.
Uh-huh.
Even if it's a low score, maybe I don't want a whole bunch of people with different relationships in my life, so.
Yeah, I could have
It could be
more, but
fun.
it's like, I'm
Yeah,
happy
it could
with
be
it,
fine, but
I'm
it's not
satisfied.
what I have.
Yes. It's about
That
how
makes sense.
satisfied you are with each
Yeah,
area
yeah.
of your life. Hey, I have 2 friends and I'm perfectly happy with that. I don't need any more.
Exactly,
Mhm.
exactly.
Right. Any other insights? How about at home? Anybody has any insights from their wheel of life? Something that surprised you? No, you pretty much knew where you were standing on all these areas. Awesome.
Yeah.
So
for
how
me,
can, go ahead.
no, I just said for me, I kind of know where I stand a little bit. I know for me, like there's certain things, maybe just some improvement. But I'm not too surprised.
Uh-huh. Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, I'm not too surprised myself, but there's something about seeing it visually, made it, kind of made me think about, wow, I do want to improve in these areas.
Yeah, I thought the same thing.
Awesome. So what do you think you can do with this wheel of life? A few ideas. Okay, now I have the information. What kind of things you could do?
Reduce the ones that you're very satisfied and put the effort into the other ones that you're not.
Yeah, one thing could be like you're trying to improve the areas that are not as good. Find a way to feel better about them, right? By either exercising more or eating better or something like that, right?
And if you begin to make the effort, I would say, make an effort to do this
Uh-huh.
every, couple of months or something.
Absolutely.
Reevaluate.
But Yvonne, doesn't it come back to the situation where, well, I've been living like this 2 years. Do I really need to change it? Yes, I would like to have a better job, but I've been doing it for 10 years. Is that really a matter of, you know what I mean? It comes to the situation where you've been like this forever. You became so used to,
Mhm.
especially working for nonprofits, right? It's like, yeah, man, I could get paid a little bit better, but I've been doing this for a long time. I already got used to it.
Not getting paid.
But then sometimes we think, right? But if I get another job, then maybe my family, I'm not gonna have time to see them. Maybe my relationship is we don't know if it is true, but sometimes I guess we're just sabotaging ourselves with something that we don't really know. So it's a scary place.
Mhm.
It's a scary place because, we know that we need to do something, but we're used to it. Do I really need to change? It comes back to the same thing that I said like a couple minutes ago. We're so used to it that maybe it is who we are and we accept it and we learn to accept that situation, that taking the steps necessary or the actions necessary to change these is going to require more effort than what I'm used to.
Mhm.
I don't know. But I guess it's just how bad you want it, right? At the end of the day. I don't know.
So Saya, you did just now gave us a demonstration of exactly what you can do with this wheel, which is going to self-exploration, right? Like think about it, take time to think and say, well, like you were saying, I've been working like this. Is it really the job or the way I'm working what is affecting me, or the expectations I have over what I am supposed to be doing? And where are those expectations coming from? Right? Are they coming from what other people tell me? Are they coming from what society tells me I have to do? And so on. So it's really a tool for self-exploration and looking into it and saying, no, maybe I could eat better, but I like my burgers. And, I don't have to be suffering every time I eat a burger because it makes me so happy, right? It's really more of a self-exploration kind of tool than a tool that will take you to make any changes.
It is very revealing, because if you're honest about it, you really, it definitely serves as an action, something that you can put action items to.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes. So if you feel like, I'm not aligned with how I want things to be, maybe I can make a change. Or I'm not aligned with something I think I should be doing, maybe I should align my thoughts, right? And have, align my expectations and how things should be, see where they are coming from. Bit of self-exploration. So alignment is a big thing in life, and the next thing that I wanted to show you was
I have a question. In
Oh,
your
yeah.
experience, has anybody ever said 10 in something?
Oh, I said 10 in
Yeah.
Korea, yeah.
In career?
Yeah.
Because you know, I have this mentality that all human beings never think perfection. They will never put, for example, I will never put a highest grading of something that I do. But I was wondering if somebody, if it is just me or it's like everybody, that's why, you know, but I'm glad that you said you did 10. You know,
Yeah, but it took me,
that
it took me a long
self-confidence?
time because, you know, as a founder and trying to make it work. I mean, I was pulled in different directions. I mean, I was still trying to get a job in corporate and, you know, still trying to do both. And after a number of turns, I realized that, you know what, I'm not happy doing a job in corporate. I'm happy doing, you know, really spending the time to build the Norwalk International Cultural Exchange, no matter what that's gonna take. And I'm really satisfied with just doing, you know, growing, building that organization as opposed to, because there was a time when, you know, I was, you know, trying to make ends meet. And I kept stressing about the finances and then I was putting in for resumes and those job requirements were preventing me from doing what it is that I really enjoyed doing. And so I don't look for a job anymore. You know, I mean, I feel kind of liberated that I've gotten to that point where I can say, you know, this is, I'm totally happy just, you know, doing my nonprofit. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's a great story, right?
But I get what you're saying about the 10. I think as humans, some people, it's never, because I'm always the person, I'm an overachiever. And I know that about me. So a 10 to me would mean that I really are a 10.
That you live, yeah.
And my spirituality, I take very seriously. I'm very serious about that. And I still didn't give myself a 10. I gave myself a 9 because I know there are things that I don't do that my spirituality would lead me to be more of. So making yourself a 10, you definitely, like you said, would have to be sure. And certain personalities, people have certain, like myself, I'm like, I'm the person that goes, did I do it right? You know, could there be something more done to make it even perfect? You know, so you get yourself all wind up like that, thinking like that, you know. So you're like, oh, I'm a 10, but you know, but so we say, oh, your hair looks nice, but
I have a
does
10.
The beautiful thing about this is that for each person, it may be so different, right? So, and that's what, you know, we're going through when we say we're not going to tell you what to do with these workshops, because what works for you may be so different than what works for somebody else. So, but these are, you know, great inputs. You guys are running these workshops. That's awesome. If you guys at home want to say anything, just jump in, okay? Okay, awesome. I assume you're at home, maybe you're in the office. I'm sorry, I say at home. Virtually, people that are virtual. All right, so the next alignment tool is called the values assessment. And this is, I love this assessment because one of the things that happens in life is sometimes we are not in line with our values and the things we believe in. And our values are kind of like a very important thing. We talked about it a little bit earlier. And it was mentioned at some point the things that we value and put when we were talking about the needs of self-care and what we value. Sometimes we value things very highly and we are not acting on those values. So that means we are not aligned with those values. For example, if I value family, but I'm using most of my time to develop my business, I'm going to feel that lack of paying attention to my family because it's a high value for me. So what we can do now, real briefly, is go through this list of values. There are many more values that exist. And just take a look at them and see how important is a value to you. And right now, how do you believe that value today? And pick a few so you don't have to do the whole list, or maybe you're really fast. And let's take a look and see whether you feel you are aligned with the values you have. This is something you can continue playing with at home and, kind of looking at it for yourselves. I do have a question for you. How do you do on self-care? That value.
Probably answered differently today than yesterday.
True. It could mean more, but don't practice it.
Self-expression, self-mastery.
After the discussion, I'm changing my.
I guess self-mastery will be more like, how well do you feel that you can express yourself and you can manage your feelings and your, the way you kind of like manage life in general for yourself. Yeah, hopefully after today, you feel a little bit better about your self-care and,
Well, after I'm giving myself a lower score on how well do I live it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, because it's making me think that, I should be doing more, for myself, so. Cause I did this at home before coming,
Uh-huh.
and but, yeah, I'm not doing enough.
That would be an interesting exercise, I think, to do this before you got
Before
here.
you got here.
Right,
And
after you
then have
hear.
people do it at the end.
Yeah,
I would say if I did this yesterday, self-care wouldn't necessarily have been, I wouldn't necessarily have rated it as, you know, of high value. Now I feel like, oh, yes, definitely. It needs to be up there.
Well, I'm glad you got a new insight on it. That you know that is the importance in your level of value has gone up. Yeah, and these things change also, right? Change as we get older, as different circumstances of our lives happen. The main thing about values and being in alignment with your values is usually when you are out of alignment with your values, it creates a lot of emotional stress. The things that you believe that are important in your life, maybe you were not seeing them, you're putting it on the side, but normally, if you are out of alignment with a value that is very important for you, it will create a stress and, you know, unhappiness in general. So things that are important just to have in the back of your mind. All these things are just tools for seeing what you may think or may have some idea of, but now, like when you see it in paper, it makes a whole difference. You know, on how you think about it. I had made a note for myself here. Oh, yes. So a couple of things that are that I mentioned before, but I want you to keep a mind on, right? Expectations. They can weigh really a lot on our lives. Not only the expectations other people tell us, the expectations that we have for ourselves, right? So that's something important to keep an eye on and see what kind of beliefs are valuable for you about yourself. And then the other piece is kind of sometimes learning to accept that some things are how they are and enjoy them. You know, we'll see in a few minutes in the next slides, great tools for taking care of yourself is feeling gratitude. When you feel grateful for the things you have, and don't long so much for the things that you don't have, you will naturally lean towards feeling better about life and taking care of yourself as well. So for example, when we were talking about the wheel of life, another way that you can use it is see the things that are going really well for you and take the time to appreciate and be grateful for that. It will kind of make a lot of positive contribution about how you feel about life in general. So these are exercises you can observe all the time, once in a while, kind of like use them all the time. I hope they are useful. I know some people were talking about at the beginning of the workshop about how to balance their day better so that they can kind of feel that they can have time for self-care. I'm going to send you in an attachment when we do the follow-up email, a tool that I use a lot that is called my ideal week. And it's a week that helps you to see kind of like how to distribute your time throughout the day so that you find the time to relax, rest, and, you know, recharge. So I'll send you that so you can use it. Very easy to use. It's basically a schedule for the day, but can allow you to look at your week in a way in which you intentionally separate time to do things that are good for yourself. So I'll make sure I send that. So now we'll talk a little bit about different things that you could do. First of all, before we move, one of the things I always tell people is just to make sure they keep an eye on the things that their body and their mind ingests. So it's not only about what you are eating and feeding yourself, it's also about what are you feeding your mind with, right? Are you, and I know a lot of people are fond of watching the news in the morning because they want to be informed. Are the news that you are watching news that are helping you feel better about, you know, things? Or is it news that are kind of like making a big deal of things that are negative and are introducing separation in the country and people being very, polarized. So what kind of news are you watching? How are you feeding your mind and how are you feeding your body? It's an important thing to keep an eye on. But now I have a question for you, and I know you all feel that maybe self-care is not your strength, but I'm sure there may be some things that you do for yourself that help you take care of yourself. Anybody would like to share things that they do?
Well, I go to the gym.
Awesome.
When I wake up in the mornings, I give myself a little quiet time. Just like to quiet my mind, like a little 5-minute try to do a little 5-minute meditation to just quiet my mind. Yeah.
Great. It's a great way to start the morning. Finding some time to center yourself. Lisa, do you have anything?
Taking little walks to clear my mind, especially when I'm stressed, it helps a lot. And if there's some way that I can sneak in something with nature, it always has a tendency to ground me a bit more.
Yes.
I do morning devotions. Even sometimes in the afternoon, depending on who I talk to all day. So I do devotionals, but I just don't do them with me. I email or text other people who I know might not be feeling well or whatever. So my phone is full of different numbers of people that I just send random devotionals to. If my mind is on you, you'll get one.
Wow.
And my eyes watch comedy until it's time to go to work. I refuse to watch the news.
Okay.
So I watch comedy shows.
Uh-huh.
I'll Netflix all the way until it's time to go to work. Well, I'm up early. So, but I just don't leave the house on a sour note. I don't want to know what's going on right now. When I go home in the evening and I unwind and I watch the news and I unwind and then we're good.
That's great. Wow. I never thought of using humor,
Oh, yeah.
right? In such a way. I use it like I watch comedy when I need really to relax in the evening. But it started in the morning with a good joke. It's like really a good way to
90s
start the
and
day.
70s, not 70s, the 90s and early 2000 comedy shows. I got one channel that shows Seinfeld. I got these are just, just something to laugh it off and get going.
My God, I have to tell you, some of those comedy shows saved me from depression so many times in my life. Yeah. When I was going through hard times, then I will watch like one of those shows. I will go to bed and feel like, okay, I'm good. Life is not so terrible. All right. How about you guys at home or at work? Where anything that you do that you'd like to share with us?
For me, I just tried. I started walking, like walking daily. Because like you said, that's just time with myself, kind of just to clear my mind. So I try to make sure I try to do that every day, whether I'm at work or home. I just try to get in, whether it's 15 minutes, I just try to walk a little bit.
Great. Thank you, Lisa. Valerie?
Yeah, so for me, I try to unplug in the evenings by like putting my phone down, and I like to take like really long showers. And then I go into like reading. And I also do a lot of word searches, which helps me.
Oh, great. So you're all doing a little something. And here's the thing, like doing self-care doesn't have to be like a big, huge thing, right? It doesn't mean like, oh, I have to go into the spa this weekend. It means really doing a little something every day that is good for yourself. So here we'll explore into a few things that could be done, a few examples of things. Breathing, it's the first one. Don't forget to breathe. I often forget to breathe. But breathing can be such a simple tool that you can use when you need a break, when you have had a conversation that is difficult, when you have to deal with something that is stressful, taking the time to breathe and pay attention to your breathing can be really good. And when you think about your senses, try to discover what kind of senses work better for you. Like, for example, for me, it's sound. If I concentrate when I'm breathing on a sound that my breathing is doing, I will make it work much better than if I was concentrating, let's say, in my physical sensation of breathing. So see what works for you, because out of the 5 senses, there may be one that may be better for you to use when you are meditating or doing exercise or simply breathing. But don't forget to breathe. It's so easy and we often forget about it. Another one is mindfulness. This is very funny because recently are you familiar with Eckhart Tolle? Is the author of The Power of Now. Well, I invite you to investigate him. I put a link to YouTube here, so you get that. We don't have time. The video I'm sending you is a little long, but he is actually one of the first authors I read about being present in the moment. And his book is quite something. I have some books at the end of the presentation to recommend. But what he likes to call mindfulness is he calls it presence. Because he says the word mindfulness means a mind full of thoughts. That's how he interprets the word. So basically, being mindful is to pay attention to our surroundings and the things about us. With mindfulness, there are many techniques that you can apply. One of them is called grounding. And you know, if you're having a difficulty with a story that you heard or something that you had to deal with, you can basically take a look at things that will bring you back into the present moment and also describe them. So as you, for example, are looking around a room and I look at that chair, I will look at the chair and start describing what the chair looks like. It's black, it has 5 wheels. And as I go through the description, this is going to help me ground what is happening at the moment and bring me back into the present moment. Because when we go through stressful situations, it's our mind that is overreacting. It's not what is happening at the moment, it's what our mind is creating. So I invite you to look at the videos and, you know, this presentation after we're done, so you can click on the link and check it out. He talks a lot about the world that we're living in today and how we are being constantly bombarded by messages and our mind is overreacting to it. We're saying, I have to answer this email and I have to answer this text and I have to comment on this Facebook post because it's so important. And he brings you back into what it means, right, to be present and how you can do it. The next one, of course, is meditation. There are many forms of meditations and schools of meditation. These are a list of some of the ones that are out there. Some are stricter than others. That all depends. Meditation is not for everybody. For example, if we have victims of trauma, we usually don't use meditation a lot because as they close their eyes, they may have flashbacks of what happened to them. So it may be a bit of an unsafe situation for people that are still processing their trauma. You can also meditate with your eyes open, right? But there are some other alternatives like body movements and things that people can do to get into a state of meditation without necessarily going into the meditation that may, have memories that are traumatic jump into you from out of nowhere. This is basically the brain trying to process things. That's what it does as you rest. That's why we have dreams and so on. For the body, nourishment and exercising, right? How do you eat? What you consume? How active you are? You take walks. That's good for your body. You sit in front of the TV all day, not so good for your body. It's stressful, but not necessarily something that brings goodness to your body as a whole. Taking naps is good. Doing things that are good for your body, and it's important you kind of like get to know your body and how it works, so that you can apply the things that work for you. But food and exercising is kind of like the most basic thing, and we don't think about it sometimes. We rush out of the house. We end up buying something to eat that is not as healthy, And then we are tired because we took too much sugar and so on, and we get into a cycle that is not very self-caring. A few other things that I have gotten from different readings I've done. Gratitude is an awesome way to take care of yourself. When you practice gratitude, let's say at the end of the day, you have a little journal of things that you're grateful for. It does change your outlook and the way you feel about things. And that can be done in 3 minutes. It doesn't have to take long. You don't spend any money on it, right? It's something that you can do and that will really make a change into your life. Recalling beautiful memories is another great exercise to do. So let's say, for example, you are in a situation that is very stressful, you take time, you don't feel like doing meditation at that time, but you start thinking about beautiful memories, it will change the way your body and your system is reacting to the situation. It's relieving, basically, those situations. Compassion for self and others. That's a great self-caring tool. Like you were saying, right? In this case, you use your exercises that you do through the phone, and I forgot the name that you gave it. I'm sorry. What?
Devotion.
Devotions. Sending devotions to other people, right? Is doing something good that is for yourself too. So, and at the same time, you're touching other people's lives. So it's 2 for 1. So those are easy ways to produce self-care that are not normally talked about. Elimination of judgment. That's for ourselves and for others. And judgment is natural. We all have ideas of how things should be and how we would like things to be. But when we try to eliminate judgment in our lives, lives become a lot easier. So, instead of sometimes questioning why things are like this or like that, getting more into an acceptance kind of mode can really help you take care of yourself, take care of the stress that you may have, and so on. Elimination of rumination. When your mind goes and goes and goes and it can't stop thinking about that. Eckhart Tolle in that video talks about it. And he has other videos about how to kind of like stop ruminating. Because it's just your brain going automatically into something you became obsessed about. And really by ruminating, it's not like you're finding any solutions, and that can create a lot of stress in your life.
But there's no on switch.
Yeah, it's how do you?
If there was just an off switch for that would be so easy.
Yeah, that would be easy. It's a thing of practice, finding where your off switch is.
Yeah, like how do you monitor that though? Like,
well, I think one of the first things is when you are aware of what's happening with you. So if you try to live at the present moment, you start practicing living at the present moment. It's easier to catch your brain when you're ruminating, because like the hardest thing about ruminating is catching yourself, right? You spend like 2 hours thinking about something, and then suddenly you're like, I've been thinking about this for 2 hours, right? So catching yourself, trying to be more present in the moment, use mindfulness in the sense of being present, right? With what you are will help you catch the rumination. And then when you catch yourself rumination, you can practice all of the above. For example, thinking about things that you're grateful for. And change the switch. You're not going to be able to turn it off, but you switch it to a different channel. So, and it takes practice. It doesn't happen, but like we said before, right? Whatever you feed to your mind will grow. So the more you practice, the better you get at it. Setting intentions in the morning, setting intentions of what you want your day to look like is a great way also to take care of yourself. Clarity before boundaries. Many times we talked about this at the last workshop, right? Many times we want to set boundaries for ourselves, but we don't have clarity. So you set up clarity through, for example, doing your values assessment and saying, these are the things that I value for myself. So here's where I'm going to set my boundaries in my personal and professional life based on what I value. So again, it takes a lot of introspection, thinking about, how do you want to go about things? And also being like super flexible with yourself, because you are not the same person today that you will be in a week. So it's okay to change. It doesn't have to be like that always. Other things that you can do is to have rituals, like in the morning, having like 5 minutes to kind of start your morning quietly. That does really help. Sometimes what is very helpful for you is to create rituals about things that you do all the time automatically every morning or every evening. One of the things that create a lot of stress in our brains is making decisions. If you can automate a lot of things that you do throughout your day, it will take a lot of pressure out of your prefrontal cortex, which is trying to kind of like process a lot of information. So things that are automatic, like, I'm gonna do this, like, for example, very easy. I'm gonna get dressed, I'm gonna brush my teeth, then take a shower, then get dressed. Some people are very good to keep the habit and do it at the same time, every day. Other people, no, they're all over the place, and they are, every time they're gonna do something, they have to make the decision of what I'm gonna do next. That can create a lot of pressure that you can take out of your life. If you kind of like, this is my ritual for the morning, I write it down. I have a bullet list of the things that I need to accomplish before I kind of like set off to go to work or do what I'm supposed to do that day. Reflections as well, having reflections throughout the day and having routines can be very helpful as well. So as you can see, these are not the traditional things that we think about self-care, but these are things that are easy to do, that do not require a lot of time and can change kind of the way you kind of live your life. Unfortunately, I do not have the magic kind of solution for self-care. And even if I had it, you probably wouldn't do it because it doesn't fit you. So, but these are little things that can be, very useful for yourself. And here's my favorite one: do nothing or do something. One of the things is that we feel like we have to be at 100 every day. And, becoming accepting that sometimes we are not at 100%. And enjoy the day the way it came to us is such an important thing. How many of us go through life going like, I should be doing this, I should be doing this, I should be doing this. At the same time, we don't have the energy to do it. So the only thing that we are doing is ruminating over the fact that and it's not benefiting anybody, because nothing is gonna get done if your body doesn't feel like anyway. Right? But also, here's the thing, you also can do something, a little something that gets you to where you want to be. And it's better than sitting and ruminating about it. And you do kind of like this one thing that will help you get a little bit farther than where you are. I love following something called the 5-second rule. We look it up on the internet too. It's another thing that you go like 5, 2, 3, 1, and you go and do. Just go and do. You take like one step. Yeah, in 5 seconds. If you wait more than 5 seconds and you think about it, you're not gonna do it. When it comes to rest, this is super important. So here are some routines that you can follow before, you take time for rest. Turn off electronic devices at least 1 hour before you go to bed. Stick to a sleep schedule if you can. That can improve your life greatly. Avoid exercising before bed, because when you exercise, you honestly get energy, right? But what's your experience, Ayed, right?
Yeah.
You get a lot of energy. Although when I used to exercise, I just gained weight and was more tired than ever. But I don't know. I think for some people, it gives them energy. Next one, avoid caffeine and nicotine. That's not something I can say I do well. My caffeine keeps going throughout the day. Avoid alcohol before the bed. Alcohol relaxes, but it doesn't help you sleep well, because there is so much sugar in your system, you don't sleep well. Avoid large meals and beverages late at night. Don't take naps after 3 p.m. Take a hot bath before going to bed. Create your sleep sanctuary. Like bedrooms are like, important places in which you should have a routine, a way to get to bed. I always fight with people. I'm like kind of, you have to make your bed because when you get to bed, you're gonna feel much better about your night's sleep if you're going into a bed that is made. Not everybody gets it, but that's
I
me.
just fall asleep wherever.
Oh, wow.
But make it upstairs to the bed, it's all good. Yeah.
Awesome. And when you can't sleep, don't stay in bed. Just get up, do something, have a glass of milk, do something that you feel is good for you, read, go somewhere else. It's a terrible feeling not to be able to fall asleep and see how the clock goes and goes and goes. And it's 1 o'clock in the morning, it's 2 and it's 3 and you're still there. If you get up and you do something, most likely you're gonna grow tired and you're able to go to bed, except for looking at your phone. Don't look at your phone. So here are a few books that I would recommend if you are a reader and you like to read. I have read all of them and I feel that they have brought me some good perspectives. I didn't put the link because I don't wanna promote any specific seller that makes a lot of money, but sells books really cheap. The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle is really a great introduction for mindfulness. And it tells his story on how he became aware of the present. It's like really good. Atomic Habits is a great book because it teaches you how to build habits in a way that is kind of like realistic for yourself, okay? Building habits is not an easy thing, but Atomic Habits teaches you how to build habits little by little. Deep Work is a book that speaks about the importance of separating time to do work that requires thinking. And this is my latest favorite book. I love it. It's called Your Brain at Work. And the reason why I love it so much because it explains how your brain works and how can you divide different kind of activities throughout the day to fit how your brain is working at the moment. When you have more energy, what kind of activities to do? When you have less energy, how to become more concentrated. It teaches a number of tools that you can do with like examples of like two people that are going throughout their day and the challenges they face. I love all these books. I think all of them have brought me like a little bit of something new to learn about it. And I have read other books that are similar to it. And these are the ones that I could definitely recommend to you if you wanted to do your own reading and continue exploring into this. So self-care can be also asking for help, spending time alone, putting yourself first, asking for what you need, setting boundaries, staying at home, saying no, forgiving yourself and taking a step back sometimes. It is really all about getting to know yourself well and, you know, get rid of those expectations that you feel you should have over yourself or other people have over yourselves. So we went past the time a little bit, but I would love to see if anybody has any comments, anything that they'd like to share, some departing words.
I'm impressed that you went past the time because I was saying, oh my gosh, 2 hours, you know, that's good, that's a lot of time. But then it very interesting. I didn't realize, yeah. So that's good.
Yeah, and I try not to cram too much information, but I think what it makes it better is the conversations we are having here and how we are learning from one another, right? Anybody would like to have a departing thought and, you know, how about Valerie and Lisa, wherever you are, anything?
I hope they can come next time here.
I just want to say thank you. It was very helpful. Like I said, just kind of remind me some things I know I need to work on. But I enjoyed it.
Awesome, I'm glad.
Yeah, I thank you very much. I definitely enjoyed it as well. And I am looking forward to joining on the future trainings in person. I think the Wheel of Life really helps me put a lot of things into perspective, and just the value assessment as well. A lot of things that I knew I needed to work on, but seeing it is kind of like a jump start to action for me. So thank you.
Awesome, fantastic. And just keep working at it on your own time, on your own life. Keep looking for things that you can do for yourself. Like I said, and I'm gonna be repeating myself all the time with this, what fits one person doesn't fit the other person. So you look into yourselves and find what is it that fits for you. So, and I hope you have a great weekend. Hopefully everybody has Monday off.
Yes.
Yeah, so enjoy your weekend and take good care of yourselves. Thank you so much for attending.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
And I think when you get older, you have to retrain the whole